The following podcast contains naughty language and ridiculous situations. Listener discretion is advised.
We interrupt this pandemic to bring you 2 to 3 hours of dick jokes, arguments, genre discussions, and some nerdy topics. And if you're not careful, you might learn a thing or two. No, you're probably not going to do that. Welcome to Trick or Treat Radio.
Zombies. You're listening to Trick or Treat Radio, starring the Deadites.
Welcome to Trick or Treat Radio. I'm a dummy. Oh, man. I muted my own fucking mic, guys. We've come full circle here. All right, anyways, welcome to Trick or Treat Radio, episode 405. Trick or Treat Radio is the world's most dangerous podcast and is recorded in front of an undead studio audience here at Castle Wolfenstein, also at the Lair of Lost Swag within the Raven Chateau, within Casa de Zero, and within the Lair of the Gods, where Ares is broadcasting from. And I don't know where our guest is broadcasting from. Maybe he can illuminate things for us when we introduce him. But right here in the middle square on Hollywood Squares today, we're joined once again by our good pal Professor J.
Hello, welcome. I just welcomed you. Welcome to your own podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you kind of welcomed us into your house.
That is true. Yeah. This is I have no witty places of where I'm at. I'm in the wonderful world of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Is it wonderful?
That's it. No, but yeah, I'm in Charlotte. Yes, but I don't have any. Yeah. Hey, well, yeah. Great. Come on, I'll talk to you.
All right. Well, let's thank Professor J for showing up tonight.
But it's good to be back. Excited to be with you tonight, and yeah. I'll try not to flow off too bad.
MZ, you're pointing the wrong direction if you're going for Hollywood Squares.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, you said I'm in the center, right?
Yeah, you're the center square.
Okay, good. So I'll be playing Alice tonight on the Brady Bunch. Who gets to be Mr. Brady though? Because Mr. Brady
Raven
and
Shadow.
Okay, so me and Raven Shadow, I'll see you later tonight if you know what I mean. After Mr. Brady goes to bed.
I always wanted to be Greg, and I liked sitcoms when everyone got older for some reason. Like I like when Greg lived up in the attic and was growing the sideburns. You know what I mean? Like I liked
the sideburns.
Yeah. And when Ricky Schroeder could drive and wore the wristbands that were, you know what I mean? I liked when they got old because I wanted to be them more. Anybody in the back? MZ, you like the sitcoms?
Oh, hell yeah. You know me.
Unfortunately,
the Brady Bunch. We'll see the Brady Bunch. They had the Brady Brides, and then they had first they had the Brady Bunch hour. Then they had the Brady Brides, where Marcia and Jan got married, and they ended up living in the same house.
Didn't one of them marry a guy named Wally? Wasn't that?
Yeah, that was Marcia.
That
was Marcia, and with a big fucking afro. And that guy, you could find him in a couple of movies. You could find him in movies like, I think he was in Slapshot.
Oh, yeah, he was. He was, I think, yeah.
And he was also the cab driver in Magic.
I picked Magic.
Oh, shut up.
And also, was it somebody Hammond who was 1970s made-for-TV Spider-Man? Also played Marsha Brady's boyfriend for an episode.
Nicholas Hammond.
Nicholas Hammond, yeah, he was dope as
he was just in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He played the director in that movie.
Did you really?
Yeah, the weird eccentric director who was telling the Leonardo DiCaprio character, like how awesome he was, and he wanted him to be him and not some caricature or something. That was the 70s Spider-Man.
I thought it was Quentin Tarantino who was the eccentric director, but
Well, in real life, yes.
really, no shit.
I guess if sniffing toes is eccentric, is that really considered eccentric these days? People fuck computers now, so like, how is sniffing toes even like? Sorry, did I go off?
Well, let's put that to a test. Let's put that to a test. Just give me a moment. Give me a moment, okay?
You gonna sniff your own toes?
Just hold on. Yeah. All right.
Oh God!
There.
What the?
Was that eccentric enough?
Well, Aries,
No, that was weird.
Aries, it could have been a lot worse. That's all I'll say.
It could have been, yeah. And the difference between weird and eccentric is money. You're broke, so that was weird.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know. Is this more Brady Bunch or Hollywood Squares? We're going to try to figure that out. But yes, we're trying something new. We have kind of I did some work on the graphics for those who saw our latest Patreon episode, which we released a few days ago. You got a sneak peek at this, but continuing to kind of work on it and see how it works out now that we're all in different locations. I want to get everyone's face on screen, so trying a few things here, see how it works out. And we got some feedback from our friends over on Patreon, so we appreciate that, and I kind of implemented some of that. But if you guys watching have any thoughts on how to improve this setup, please let me know. I know everyone's kind of small compared to what we normally are, but in order to fit everyone on screen and try to make it all pretty, I try to do my thing. So we'll see.
Should we lean in?
When your name's called.
Is that better? Can everyone see me?
Well, I am Irish, so being called small, that's not the first time.
Yes, I do remember you're a grower, not a shower.
Yes, that's our running the only running gag I have on this show over the course of many years.
That's it's more gags than most people have. So
he almost gagged himself with his foot a second ago.
Yeah, how'd that smell, MZ?
Pretty ripe. Pretty ripe.
Oh man, so eccentric. So I asked Raven Shadow if he wanted me to zoom in on him, and he didn't want me to.
Why? I can do a little.
Why is that, Raven Shadow?
I'm better far away.
You don't want.
I won't argue with that.
You don't want your close up.
No, it's weird. I got fucking mental problems, but no, I think it's
no shit.
I'm all fucked up, Jay. But no, I don't know if you need a close up of your boy. Like I'm here, I get long arms, I spread out sometimes. We got a condor, so I think it's better to like see the whole width of the empty studio to really.
You are like you are a condor.
I am a condor. I feel like I'm I'm in Das Boot and it's just me. It sucks.
Yeah, no one's feeling bad for you for being alone. So get over it. Everyone's alone.
Yeah.
Well, not everyone.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's quarantined.
Well, I mean,
I think the rest of us.
I mean, Raven Shadow.
The rest of us aren't alone, but Raven Shadow is definitely alone.
Yeah, he literally has the house to himself with Ollie. So.
Yeah.
Which is normally good, but like I really want to have fucking events. You know what I mean?
You want the blackout party, right?
I want the blackout party, yeah, man. Jay, you're coming, right, for that?
I'm sure. I'm there. When is it? Tomorrow?
Yeah, he doesn't even know what it is.
Yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Say yes.
But I don't need to know. When Raven Shadow says be there, I'm there. That's he tells me there.
It's gonna do it. It's gonna be like the debauchery kind. It's like a Hanukkah of debauchery. We're gonna do like 8 different weekends. And when it's get fucked up, we're gonna have a camp out one night. We're gonna have paint night. We're gonna have board night. Yeah, maybe you can like pick a thing and you're gonna draw. Maybe something erotic. Maybe a theme night. You could draw like a scary thing, something erotic, and whatever's in your mind, you're gonna draw and create. That could be a fun night.
Jesus Christ.
You know?
I don't know. It depends on who you ask, I guess.
And so is the idea that then something happens where you black out, so hopefully you don't remember the night before that you drew something erotic that was in your mind that potentially turned into an actual real event? And is that the idea? Or
I mean, it's a idea. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, you don't have to be. You might not get the erotic card. You might get the Americana card, and you're going to draw like some wheat or something. What's America? Wheat, corn.
Genocide. That's American.
Yeah. Some blankets. I drew blankets.
Corporate greed. Is that sorry, are we getting too political?
Yeah. Here's some beads. We own New York now. Okay?
Yeah.
We're sorry.
I love
Too soon.
I love when MZ's phone vibrates. It moves him further away from the center.
Yeah, it has shifted.
Yeah. He's gonna fall off the Hollywood squares here soon.
Everyone send MZ a text. See what happens.
No, don't do that. Hold on. Let me. Yeah, let's try that.
So let me talk about tonight's show, since I haven't even approached that subject yet. But we are going to be talking about a film called Deerskin. And this is one that Jay had sort of hipped us to. And also our boy Dane Unda, had posted about it on the Trick or Treat Radio group. Directed by Quentin Dupieux. Am I saying that right, Jay? My French on point?
Sure. Dupieux.
And it's the other Quentin. And Quentin had previously did the films Rubber, Wrong Cops, Reality, and Keep an Eye Out, among others. So we're going to be talking about his latest film, Deerskin. And then, you know what? Jay's on board for the duration. Or until he gets sick of us, whichever happens first.
I was about to say, we'll see. I might not make it through the first part.
We got at least to get to the film review. That's what we need you for the most with this one. So it should be an interesting show. That's all we got planned. We have some voice messages as well. So if you guys are listening live and you wanted to send something in, go ahead and send a voice message or an email to podcast@trickortreatradio.com. And also we are... tonight we're also streaming on Twitch. I figured I'd give Twitch another try because I've been neglecting it. And we did this past Monday, obviously you guys know I'm a big Star Wars nerd. And for May the 4th, myself and the fine folks over at Force Insensitive podcast did a watch party with live commentary. And we watched Turkish Star Wars. Have you seen this masterpiece of celluloid, Jay?
I have, yes. It's wonderful. I'm a big fan of Turkish cinema. I am a Turkish Spider-Man, Turkish E.T., Turkish,
Turkish insert movie name here.
Right. Yeah. Turkish Superman, I think, is another really good one.
Mm-hmm. Turkish Rambo.
Rambo is, and it's they all star that same guy, right? That one, his name's something or other.
Kunyet Arkin.
Yeah, Kunyet. He's in everything.
Yeah, he's been in like 500 films.
Yeah, Agfa released recently and it's actually funny because the American Genre Film Archive released a Blu-ray of The Sword and the Claw, which is a kind of an original Turkish movie. It's not one of the rip-off ones, so that's why they can get it out there. But they had to replace all the music because they would just use, like music from Close Encounters, or they would use music from, just Ennio Morricone. I like him. We'll put that in the movie. And so it's kind of weird. It's like the official beautiful Blu-ray release is actually worse than watching like the shitty, because that's the charm of those, right? Is in the middle of Turkish Star Wars, you have stormtroopers randomly for no reason, even though they're in the desert, and it makes no sense, right?
Yeah, they all of a sudden cut to the Death Star blowing up or something, or the Millennium Falcon. Yeah.
And there's I would say one other thing, if to get on this, because it's a movie that I think is out somewhere in the universe. It was a documentary that came out a few years ago, and it's called Remake Remix, Rewind, or something like that. I maybe have to look it up on IMDb. But it's a documentary on Turkish cinema and like all of the, and it's really great. I mean, it's really amazing. It played all the genre festivals, but it didn't really get a wide release. But it's called something like that: Remix, Rewind, Remake, or something 3 R's. And if you're into Turkish cinema, it's a good primer. It's sort of like that Not Quite Hollywood doc that was about the Australian films back in, it's like once you watch that documentary, there's like 10 movies. You're like, I have to watch all these movies. And they mentioned Rambo a lot. They talk about that movie a lot. I remember in that because I had never seen it. And then as soon as they mentioned it, I was like, I got to see this movie. There's a Turkish Rambo. What?
Yeah,
so
it looks like it's a remake, remix, and ripoff about copy culture and Turkish pop cinema.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
I'll have to check that out.
I got to check that out.
Yeah, and it's great because it just shows how, like, at one point they're talking to the kind of like the John Williams, the composer of Turkish cinema. So they're like, here's the guy who did all the music for all of these great Turkish movies. And basically he just sits in a room and he like pulls albums out and he's like, yeah, I like this movie. So I took the songs from this and just put it in the movie. So he's not really a composer. He's just stealing music from Hollywood films and saying like, oh, I like the good, the bad, and the ugly music. Oh, put that in this random E.T. movie, whatever.
He's a DJ.
It's brilliant to watch them just kind of flippantly be like, we don't care about copyright. We don't give a shit. We don't, like.
That's funny.
Was there ever
I gotta check that out.
What was that, Room Shadow?
Was there ever a Turkish Rocky? I feel that could be something that'd be awesome.
If there wasn't, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
A Turkish.
There's a Turkish Evil Dead.
Yeah,
yes.
there is. Yeah. There's a bunch of them, but yeah, they're crazy. So we just watched Turkish Star Wars on that stream, and that like obviously we did it on the show years ago, but it I hadn't seen it since then. But they obviously use music from Star Wars. They use Indiana Jones. They use Flash Gordon, and like each theme, each character has like their own theme. So whenever like Kunyat Arkin's character was on screen, they play the Indiana Jones theme. It would just be like that original fanfare, like the dun 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 dun, and then it would cut to like Flash Gordon.
I remember too. You guys did you did that 3 Dev Adam movie. I had never heard of that. And I remember you did that where it's like Spider-Man's the bad guy and he fights Captain America. And, there is.
Hulk,
I looked
right?
it up. There is a Turkish Rocky. It's called Kara Simsek. It's from 1985.
Interesting.
Of course.
Turkish Rocky.
Oh, that's funny.
Sadar, a strongman, trains hard on boxing to be the champion after the death of his younger brother, and apparently they call that the Turkish Rocky. So.
Oh, there's even a Turkish Friday the 13th.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
I saw a clip of it, like maybe a 3-minute clip of it, maybe about 2 years ago, and I don't remember too much about it. All I can say is that it was totally bizarre.
Yeah, we what was the one? So we did it wasn't Turkish, but we did. I don't know if you guys remember that film we did, Abhay. It clearly wasn't anything like that, but it was an like a Bollywood horror action film. It was like 3 hours and 15 minutes or something insane like that. It was a long time ago, so I don't know if you guys remember it. But
is that the one that had the fucking like hour and a half flashback scene?
Yes, a 90-minute flashback.
Yeah, it was like, and before this, and it was like, what the fuck? It's happening. Why are they married? What's going on? And that was the dude that was in prison, right? He was in prison, and he used to break out.
Look at the brain on Raven Shadow.
Yeah. Fucking tell me. My Turkish brothers and sisters.
No wonder he needs a wide shot. He needs room for that gigantic brain of his.
Not the brain. Thanks, MZ.
So, yeah, that sounds really cool, though. I'm going to have to check that out because it is super interesting. You know, like they just do not give a fuck about copyright. And, you know, it's just interesting to see kind of how they do things over there. And they're definitely, to great effect, there's some comedic moments in a lot of those things. So I think they're definitely worth looking into. They're definitely cinematic oddities at the very least. So if anyone's interested, and I do know Turkish Star Wars is available on YouTube. That's how we streamed it. And if you guys did want to watch the stream that we did, the Force Insensitive one, you can check that out on the Twitch channel. It's twitch.tv/trickortreatradio. You can go there. It's archived. You can check it out. And just, you know, we kind of do like a live commentary over it. So it was a lot of fun, though. We did that. So, Jesus.
I suggest
Oh, there you
putting
go.
that book,
Mondo Macabro.
Mondo
Yeah.
Macabro.
Pull it back.
Yeah.
Pull it back a little bit. You're too close. Pull it back a little. And down. Okay. There you go. There you go. Yeah. I remember you talking about that, MZ. Tell us about Mondo Macabro.
This is a great book. Weird and wonderful cinema from around the world. And a lot of it deals with, you know, there's some Mexican superheroes and Mexican wrestling movies involved. You know, the Santo movies, Blue Demon movies. But it also covers a lot of, you know, properties that are taken from this country and put into Turkish cinema like we've been talking about for the past 15 minutes. And it's really a fascinating read. I strongly suggest, if you can find it, pick it up. It's really a great read by Pete Toombs. And lots of pictures, color and black and white. Asian cinema, the bare facts about Bollywood. So some really great stuff in here. Fantastic stuff.
All right. Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
Maybe I'll have to post that on the show notes as well. I'm sure it's available on Amazon somewhere. So, cool. So, yeah, so we did that live stream. It was a lot of fun. And there was, I don't know if you guys care about this. I don't know. But Raven Shadow, you caught up on The Mandalorian, right? You watch all of
yeah.
it? Okay. Did you hear that Robert Rodriguez directed an episode, apparently?
Of season 2, right?
Season 2, yeah.
Yeah, I can't fucking wait, dude.
Yeah. So that's kind of exciting. And also, Taika Waititi is now going to be doing a Star Wars film.
Yeah, man. It's exciting.
You sound so excited. You don't sound excited at all.
You don't sound too excited.
Yeah, man. It's exciting.
It's exciting. I know. Listen. I think I once again I love Star Wars, dude.
But you're still waiting for it to get its balls back, though, right?
No, man. I just want. I think the mythology is overstuffed, like those fucking raviolis that Mick Foley in the 90s, and I think it's also crumbling under its own mythology. Like there's a lot of content out there, and I know the program you do is very cute because it does all the, you know, the tunes and everything, which is fun, right, Jay? But like for me, like
I'm a big fan of probing myself, personally. Huge fan.
Fucking Charlotte style. I understand that.
Remember, I recommended Butt Boy. That was
You did.
I'm all about the probe.
And we thank you for that.
Yeah.
Lots of zero thanks for that. But no, I'm excited. I still feel that the new trilogy was really only 2 movies because one bled into the other. I kind of want the real part 3 to come. But no,
well,
it's
it ain't coming.
yeah, right. I mean, like I love, you know, Taika Waititi, the director of Thor Ragnarok, is very good. And Mark Hamill's going to be on the What We Do in the Shadows program. That's exciting.
The Mark Hamill, yep.
Yeah. And I guess here's my question. I was going to leave
There's a
voice note.
question in here?
Here's my question for the Force Insensitive podcast, and it mostly goes up to Mars and Rocky.
Yeah.
Is there a missed opportunity that Count Dooku didn't have a brown lightsaber?
Oh, my God.
Right? Like, is it weird with all the colors?
Wow.
I feel that.
Well, it wasn't Count Dookie.
Yeah, well, I heard about that episode.
Well, what do you want him to fight with? A goddamn Tootsie Roll?
So, joining us live, watching in the chat room, is our boy Dane Under.
Oh shit!
Hey.
What's up, Dane? I know Dane's half the fucking world away, so it's awesome that he was able to tune in. He said, "What's up, everyone? I made it. Really wanted to see this one, but I wasn't sure work was going to call me in. I love Deerskin." So Dane has saw it at a film festival in Australia, and he was interested in hearing us talk about it. So thanks for hanging out, Dane. Thanks for tuning in. And also, Evil Corny says, "I thought Turkish ET was just macking me."
That's pretty funny.
Mac and Me is probably one of the greatest cinematic achievements of all time, right?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. That movie is cinematic gold. E.T. couldn't wash Mac and Me's shoes.
Jesus.
Now,
Okay.
what's the I'm not a huge Mac and Me aficionado, but I agree in some ways with MZ quite a bit. But maybe somebody knows the answer to this question, which is there's apparently, much like Tammy and the T-Rex, there's a longer or an international cut that has some violence in it that apparently got cut from especially towards the end, where I don't want to spoil the ending of that movie, but something happens at the end of the kid. I guess, is that Mac or me? I can't remember. and it's pretty clear what happens, and it's kind of shocking.
Is it like sodomy?
Yes, it's a prequel to Butt Boy. No, I don't want to give it away because if people haven't seen that movie, but there's something that happens, and apparently there's a longer cut or an international cut.
Interesting.
Where they like cut away from it for the United States because it was like it was too graphic. It was like towards the end of the movie, something happens with some guns and the police and
Jesus.
Yeah. Anyway,
I get
So
it.
now
I didn't know
yeah, I
if
wanna see
I've heard
that.
that, but I've never seen it, so I don't know if it's apocryphal or if it's like real or,
See, I never saw it. I remember seeing the posters, but I think I was too old when that came out, and it was like, well, I've already saw E.T. It's like that dropped, and then like Batteries Not Included dropped out. Although I do remember, actually, the only Mac and Me memory I have before the Paul Rudd thing on the Conan program.
Yeah.
Because once again, I tell the story. I wanted to go see Three Men and a Baby, but my parents took me to go see Midnight Run instead, and with Bobby D and Joey Pants and everybody. So we were in line at the theater, and my dad was confused because there was a Mac and Me poster. And he's like, "Yeah, 2 adults and 1 child for Mac and Run. What the fuck are we seeing?" I'm like, "Midnight Run," and then we saw that, and there were so many F-bombs. So that was really my only exposure to Mac and Me.
I actually found what you were talking about, Jay, and it says in the original ending of Mac and Me, which you can see in Shout Factory's recent Blu-ray release. Well, actually, I won't give it away, so I won't give away the actual ending, just in case anyone hasn't seen fucking Mac and Me.
Well, tell us where we can find the information on that.
Well, the
If we want
the alternate ending, which isn't in the movie, it's not a spoiler, ended up being scrapped after test audiences responded poorly. However, it saw Eric getting shot in the chest by a trigger-happy cop.
That's what I heard.
So that's like Elliot getting gunned down when they're riding the bike.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's like a child in a wheelchair getting shot by the police. And this is like a children's movie, right?
Yeah, it was rated it was rated PG.
MC was not the test audience. He'd have been like, "Fuck."
Yeah, if MZ was a test audience.
And I'm still scarred from that scene in Dr. Sleep where they're like torturing the kid, right?
Oh yeah,
If
yeah.
you saw
Yeah.
I mean, that scene is like horrible, but like this is like the cop. Think of 21st century America, cops shooting a kid, in a wheelchair. Jesus Christ.
Pay attention, folks. MZ's about to die again.
Yep, he's gonna cry.
What's happening?
When he laughs, he cries.
Let's get a paramedic to that house.
Yeah, someone call 911.
A cop shoots a kid in a fucking wheelchair.
A trigger happy cop.
Was it Tackleberry?
That's the crossover we all need.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So
On a very special episode of Police Academy 2, Tackleberry accidentally murders a child.
Accidentally murders a child from Mac and Me. Oh shit!
That's fun. Kid
That's
Yeah.
funny.
in a wheelchair gets shot by a gun cop. Oh, that's funny.
So apparently, unfortunately, that extra is not on Shout Factory's release, but it was recently unearthed and shared on Twitter by producer and film curator Peter Kuplowski, who.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so apparently he found it, but he salvaged the footage from a Japanese release of the film. That's right, the death by cop scene actually remained in at least some of Mac and Me's international cuts.
We're gonna have to hunt that down, probably on eBay or somewhere, or on Amazon or somewhere.
Yeah, he said. So it says, I'm hearing rumors that eBay is crashing from unprecedented searches for Japanese VHS tapes of Mac and Me.
Oh. Shit, I'll have to email Peter and ask him about that.
Yeah.
I mean, he might actually get back to me. So shit.
Oh, that is funny. That is funny.
It also adds, does McDonald's realize they spent millions of dollars to both drop a child in a wheelchair off a cliff and shoot him in the back?
That's right. McDonald's, that was the big thing with that movie, right? McDonald's paid all the sponsorship money and it's like a giant ad for McDonald's.
Yeah,
Wait,
big dance scene.
Is he named Mac because of the Big Mac?
I don't remember that. That's a good question. Probably. Probably, so they could get that. I mean, if they're going to be dropping that kind of money in, for that kind of movie, I'm sure they wanted their name in the title somewhere. So I guess that would make sense.
Well, probably.
Like 5 of us talking about a movie we can't remember.
Because we're too old for when it came out the first time.
Oh,
but
shit.
No, I remember it. I remember it because I watched it just a few days ago.
Jesus, you need a fucking job, sir.
Wait, I found the tweet from Peter Kuplowski.
Oh, nice.
With the footage, so I'm gonna send it to you guys.
Okay, all right.
I just watched it.
I think it's up on YouTube.
It's on. Yeah, it might be. It's on his Twitter. Holy shit!
All right, I gotta check it out. If I lose you, get me back, okay?
Oh God,
Call the paramedics now. Get them over there.
This is worth losing us for. All right, let me send it to you. I'm gonna send it to the group chat there, MZ. I'll send it.
All right. It's here. It's
Oh, you got it? Okay.
No, it's already. Yeah, somebody. Cornelius sent it.
Oh, okay, good.
I
good.
gotta see this.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go. Live reaction.
Here we go.
Of MZ.
All right. I'm watching it.
All right.
Oh.
Here we go. Live reaction.
All right.
Of one.
Yeah.
Everyone down 99.
Holy shit! Holy shit! And then he gets blown up. Oh my god! Oh my god, that's amazing! That is amazing! Holy shit! Oh my god! That is phenomenal.
The car.
Oh,
He gets fucking
That-
shot.
that was beautiful.
Who
Oh
thought-
my god.
How? Like, who thought that was even a good idea for this movie?
It was not like I had anything to do with it.
It was the 80s. See, they did a lot of, you know.
Holy shit!
Thank you, Corny. Thank you.
That was Marion that posted it.
Oh,
Nice.
man.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, Marion posted it in the chat room. Hemsey's getting yelled at.
Down.
That's amazing.
Oh god, that's so fucking amazing. Yeah.
That is-
Now I don't want to watch it because I feel like MZ's reaction can only be better than whatever it is. It's been set at such a high bar now that I
It
sort of
was
feel like
beautiful.
it's best to like never see it. You know, it's like
It was beautiful.
okay, I'll have to
Oh,
check.
believe me, if I had known that this footage existed, I would have looked for it a long time ago. I had no idea. This is beautiful.
This is
I think
It's a kid getting
beautiful.
shot in the back.
What happened?
This is
It's a kid
beautiful.
getting shot. He's saying it's beautiful.
As the poor little blonde kid rolls away with a gunshot in his chest, aliens take a run for it.
I feel like it was in a. They mentioned it in a book that I read many years ago. That was like I think it was called like on the cutting room floor or from the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
And it was this is a pre-internet or right when the internet was. I think it's from the 90s, and it was all that stuff. It was like there's footage of Eric Stoltz, from Back to the Future and. All that kind of stuff that we all know about now because it's on every DVD and stuff. But I feel like there was something I just came across at that time, and it was just, here's a picture of Eric Stoltz and I remember that specifically, the Eric Stoltz one, and I feel like that's when I first heard about that or knew about it, or I could have just saw Peter's tweet 3 months ago and just scanned right past it, and it just was like, but I'm not on Twitter that often.
We wouldn't have known about it if it weren't for you mentioning it. So we had a chance to look it up. So
Okay.
and MZ almost dying is always worth it.
You look
That
exhausted
is
now from
beautiful.
laughing.
Yeah, he got yelled.
I am.
He got yelled
I
at
am.
too. So
Yeah. Big surprise there. Nah, it was beautiful. It was worth it.
are you?
It was
How many times are you going to watch that tomorrow?
Well, actually, the question should be how many more times am I going to go watch it tonight?
Well, if you attempt to keep if you're going to keep it down, you better not watch it anymore.
I have a question for MZ if that's okay. I don't want to derail the Mac and me conversation, but
Oh, no, please do.
okay, all right. It just really relates to MZ, but it does relate to everybody. Which is, have you ever seen the movie The Golden Glove?
Yes.
Okay, the just recent one with the serial killer one.
Yeah.
I think it came out last. Okay, all right. Because I was going to say, if you haven't seen that movie, that's a movie I'm 100% intrigued how you thought of that movie. I know how most other people would respond to that movie, but the expert in the room of really fucked up shit.
I don't say this often. I needed a shower after watching that. I don't say that often at all.
Yeah.
Golden shower?
Oh,
He needs that after watching the Mac and Me video.
yeah.
Let me ask you something, Jay. Have you ever? I'm sure you've seen Mondo Kane.
Probably. I can't say I have for one. I'm aware of it, but I don't know if I've actually watched it. I mean, probably in the 90s or something, or.
You know what it's about, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a scene in Mondo Kane. It came out in 1963, and it's really entitled "The Dog's Life," and it's by the directors Jacopetti and Prosperi, and they basically film life outside of what is basically considered a civilized world. But there's this one area where they film these late bars out in Germany, and it's filled with the most disgusting men and women getting drunk, getting frisky with each other, and you could almost smell the sweat in the movie. Okay, that's how it was, and it's basically the Golden Glove is basically that.
Yeah.
The only thing is that it involves a serial killer. It's really a sleazy flick. I didn't think sleazy flicks could still be made nowadays, but this one's up there.
Mm.
It's pretty vile at times, so I recommend it.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
2 international Macamee endings up.
And the thing is, when you look at the main character, the guy who plays the serial killer, I forget the characters' names, but if you see the main guy and you see his IMDb page, you couldn't possibly believe that that's the same guy.
Oh wow! Mm.
Because he's a decent looking dude, okay, but the way he looks in this movie with the mustache and everything, and the greasy hair and all, it's just oof. It's a complete 180. But it's well worth the time. It's a slimy flick.
Right, definitely right in your wheelhouse then.
Yeah.
Oh
I don't want to derail things, but it's been on my mind. It's been on my mind because there's always a handful of movies when I see them where I'm like, I know one person I need to get the true opinion on this film.
But it's good.
Yeah,
I
I saw it and I loved it, but it's one of those movies where, it's sort of hard to come. It would be hard to come on and say, you know what movie you should all watch? The Golden Glove. Right? It's like, it's like The Greasy Strangler. You can do that because it's funny and it's goofy. And even though it's kind of gross, it's humorous. This is like gross and sleazy with an air of like, I don't feel good right now.
Well,
but it was great. It's kind of, yeah. So, anyway. And also, I felt like we talked about Mac and me enough.
Well, according to MZ, I don't think that's possible. He's going to watch it all night. Let me catch up. Let me catch up in the chat room here. Evil Corny says I'm about to have an asthma attack from laughing when he was watching the Mac and Me ending.
Yes.
And he also said MZ's girlfriend don't want no laughter in that joint.
No, not really.
I will say too, just to go back to the Mac and Me, that so I mentioned it before, but Peter Koplowski. I recommend, if you're not following him on any social media, you should be, because he will introduce you to things that you would never be aware of that you wanted in your life to watch. So again, if he unearthed this Mac and Me footage, and I mean that in terms of like really micro budget, like filmmakers that you would just never hear of, but he will mention a movie, and he's a kind of person where if he tells you to watch something, you should probably watch it. And you might not love everything, but it's sort of like he has introduced me to more micro budget, really outside cinema, just because he'll sort of mention like, oh, I love there's a filmmaker named Matt Farley. I don't know if you're aware of this person. He's from New England, or he lives in New England. He went to Providence College in the 90s. And he makes these really small micro budget films. And it's like, he turned me on to this guy's movies just by mentioning them. And now it's like, I can't get enough. Now, they're not great cinema, but it's just something about, it's hard to explain. So again, when Peter, if he unearthed Mac and Me, that's great. But people should follow him because, he'll turn you on to some really great, weird stuff. Canadian filmmakers, Peter lives in Canada, Canadian films that you would never have heard of. you know, going all the way back 20, 30 years, and you're just like, this is a movie? What? You know? So I would highly recommend that in terms of all of this discussion about Mac and me. Yeah.
So, and I would second that as well. Apparently, because I'd actually reached out, this is sort of a little bit inside baseball, but reached out to the person who was doing the promotions and marketing for a film. So representing like this one film that I'd like to review down the road. And it turns out that Peter was the person that I contacted for this film. And he had said that he's actually familiar with our show and has listened to it. So I never.
I bet I know exactly what film you're talking about.
You probably do.
I know exactly what film you're talking about.
Yeah, it's no secret that we're a big fan of some of the people that worked on that. So, but it's one that will probably be coming down the pike a little bit. So obviously, with all the delays with COVID, who knows when it's gonna have an actual release or whatever. But when we get to that point, we'll mention it. But yeah, so. Peter's a real cool guy, though, so I have had a couple exchanges with him. And, he's, like you said, Jay, super, super knowledgeable about everything. It's about film. It's crazy. So, all right. Well, I think we're starting to wind things down here in the intro. Raven Shadow, you're lonely and you haven't said much. I'm a little worried about you.
You should be. But no, I'm just basking. I'm looking at Jay. I'm looking at all my friends here. It's I'm excited about that. I like when Monster Zero gets yelled at. That makes me smile. So I'm just thinking, I'm gonna say a lot more depending on what the context is as the program continues. But we'll see what happens. Why limit ourselves?
Well, exactly. I'm going to give you a platform here. So. Just a moment. So we just released a new Patreon episode. If you guys want to head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/trickortreatradio. And we just released, it was MZ's top 13 best horror comedies. So we talked about that. We broke down the list. We added some of our own. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, it is available on the Patreon. And we also have audio and video, so whichever you want. And we gave people in the treat tier and higher the ability to watch video this time around, so we could get some feedback on the new format. So if you guys want to check that out, get in on the treat tier, which is $5 a month, and you can get access to all of the exclusive episodes that we do. We have 10 now on Patreon, and we do film commentaries, we do different discussions, and MZ had a well thought out list, and I was kind of surprised. I think you named number 11, and I was like, "Whoa, 11 is there and not in the top 5?" But he justified his list, and it's a good one. So if you guys haven't yet listened to that, go check it out on Patreon. Once again, if you guys want to help support the show, all the money goes towards hosting, for podcast hosting, for equipment, for software, everything. So every little bit helps. So if you guys dig the show, go check that out. And I don't know what we're doing next month, but we got some ideas. We got some ideas kicking around, so we'll see what we're going to do. But go ahead and check out Patreon, patreon.com/trickortreatradio. And also, we have the Amazon link. If you guys shop on Amazon, I know most of you are probably sitting at home, ordering all your groceries from Amazon Fresh. Is that what you do? Raven Chow does Mama Fresh.
She dropped some cans off in the shed. It's nice.
Some cans off in the shed.
Yeah,
what'd you tell me that your mother brought you the other day? I know you're probably kidding to some degree, but
I might have been. What was I saying? What
she brought you pot and Uncrustables.
Pot. No. It was. It was fun. All right, fine. When it gets there, so I'm sitting at home with just chilling, and I'm texting Rocky, and we'll get a little high, and I text maybe, I don't know. So no, not high. I was having some vegan delicacies, right,
you were
Johnny?
Not having vegan delicacies.
It was fucking green, Johnny. Okay, and the bag might have been named Bruce Banner, so that's fine. So I'm texting my and I had no picture of something that I used to tray that I would bring out when we were having lettuce at the Maroon Manor, and I went to send Rocky a picture. lettuce, yeah. And I went to text that picture to Rocky, but I inadvertently included the Trick or Treat Radio boys on that.
Yeah.
And I didn't to show them the what I was showing Rocky, so that was fun. And Johnny said, "Oh, did your mom bring that over?" I said, "No, but she did bring me a case of Dillas and Uncrustables."
Thanks for the play-by-play.
I don't know. I thought you set me up to tell a story. I don't know. We're in season 3 of The Walking Dead for real. We're not ever coming back. We're shaking hands again. We got fucking murder hornets. It's gonna fucking snow in New England on fucking Friday to Saturday. Get your fucking snowblower out. It sucks. Go on North fucking Carolina, and it's far from you because you're in Charlotte. So I guess I better fucking strap on. Press the button, Johnny.
No, you jumped the gun. You jumped the gun.
Holy shit!
I thought you pushing me in that direction.
No, I was giving you more screen time, so to speak.
More rope to hang myself. So
Yeah.
sorry, I jumped. All right, well. You guys ever see Casablanca?
All right, fuck it. You said it. Let's go.
You go through your week with the same old routine.
What you really want is some blood and thunder in your life.
Well, friend, you found it.
The Cromcast is an adventurous journey through the history of two-fisted pulp stories
With your hosts, John,
Josh,
and Luke.
we have action.
horror.
An adventure, all through the lens of pulp luminary Robert E. Howard.
Don't just stay in your ordinary life.
Find your pulp life at thecromcast.blogspot.com.
The Cromcast,
The Cromcast.
The Cromcast!
a podcast for the barbarian at heart.
Trick or Treat Radio, man. That's where it's at. That's the new Fangoria Radio.
Oh, delicious nerds. Ms. M knows you like to chat it up with other sexy shut-ins about comics, movies, video games, and your favorite TV shows. If that sounds like you, cuddle up to the Trick or Treat Radio Facebook group, or the FIB. That stands for Fan Interaction Board. Just go to Facebook and search for Trick or Treat Radio and have more fun than a Jedi at a lightsaber sale. Not enough? Watch us on YouTube, The Deadites TV, all one word. Last but not least, check out the world's most dangerous talk radio show, Trick or Treat Radio, at trickortreatradio.com.
Trick or Treat Radio is the greatest podcast ever invented. The spelling is very bad. I'm not sure who wrote this. And the Deadites, is that a company that procures houses? The Deadites. Oh, it's the Deadites. The Deadites are a fantastic musical act. That is what I was supposed to say. And there you go. There it is. Cheeseburger. Remember to rent The Fly, because that's a good movie for making love to.
Jeff Goldblum, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we can get you on the show again sometime soon.
Adult beverage.
Nice.
All right, we have returned on Trick or Treat Radio.
Yeah.
And we are going to talk about a movie called Deerskin. As Aries gets his headset back on. All right, so Jesus. Someone's having some issues. Someone's heavy breathing over there.
It's not me.
I know it's not you.
Not this time. Hey, here comes Aries.
It's Aries.
I'm sorry. I'm running all over the place.
It's okay. Ravenshaw's still not in his, he's still not in his chair, and you know he wouldn't be. You know you wouldn't be last.
Oh, gosh. I was fearing. I was out my driveway.
All right, so Deerskin, this film originally saw some festivals in 2019 and just got a virtual cinematic release on May 1st. And I don't know if you know this info, Jay, but I assume it's going to be hitting VOD in the near future. Do you have any info?
I don't know when exactly, but yeah, I would assume probably a couple months.
Yeah. So this is one of those deals where I know for a fact because I looked it up on Jay's page, but Jay, one of the theaters in Charlotte, you can go ahead and purchase the film virtually through them. Half of the money goes to the theater, half goes to the distributors, and then you get to see the movie virtually online, right? Is that kind of how that works?
That is exactly how that works.
So for anyone who wants to see Deerskin, you can check to see if your local theater, whether it's an art house cinema or whatever local sort of theater is playing it, and if not, go check out Jay's theater. What's your theater again, Jay?
Well, it's the Charlotte Film Society.
Yeah.
And it comes on home video on demand on the 26th. It looks like of June.
Oh, there you go. So people just have to wait a few more weeks if you want to check this out on VOD. But if you can't wait, you can go ahead and check it out virtually. You can buy tickets through your local cinema and then screen it at home. So kind of a cool thing that they're doing. Obviously, you're going to pay full price. I think they're $20-ish. Somewhere around there.
No.
$10?
That's the studios. The studios are going to charge $20 for those movies. No, I believe Deerskin is 10.
Okay, that's much more reasonable. So, if you
remembering that half, and again, find your local art house, independent theater that you like in your town, wherever you are, in whatever country. You're gonna pay $10. $5 is going to go to the distributor. $5 is going to go to the theater, and again, it's a way to keep the distributors open and to keep the theaters open because they're getting some revenue from virtual screenings. So, it's worthwhile. It's very worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys dig what if this is a film you want to see, if you dig what we have to say about it, and you're thinking about checking out, $10, you can't go wrong, and it helps support your local theater and the distributor. So. Definitely consider that. Look it up for your local art house or independent film theater, and then if it is, give it a look or wait till VOD, whatever you want. I'm not telling you what to do. But anyways, this film was written and directed by Quentin Dupieux, who you guys I mentioned earlier. Previously did the film Rubber, Wrong Cops, Reality, and Keep an Eye Out, or the ones he's probably most known for, but I would say Rubber is probably the one that most people would have seen or heard of, or Wrong Cops, I guess, as well, was on, I think it was even on Netflix or something like that for a while. So he is an interesting filmmaker, and we'll definitely get a little bit more into that as we talk about the film. And the film stars Jean Dujardin, Adele Haenel, I don't know how to say that, Albert Delpy, Coralie Roussier, and Laurent Nicholas. The synopsis, let me pull it up here. A man's obsession with owning the designer deerskin jacket of his dreams leads him to turn his back on his humdrum life in the suburbs, blow his life savings, and even turn him to crime. So, if you guys have seen Rubber, you kind of know what to expect from Quentin Dupieux. He is a very, I don't know if you'd call it, necessarily call it surrealistic, but it is, he definitely has his own style, a very unique style. And how would you describe Quentin Dupieux, Jay?
No, I mean, I think surrealism is a really good definition. Because, a lot of his films, and I will be honest, when I recommend a film, I'm already kind of setting up that I clearly, like the film. But, I do sort of worship at the altar of Quentin Dupieux as a surrealist director. I feel like his films very much live in the spirit of surrealism with sort of imagery imagery and sort of the unconscious kind of nature of things versus reality, including he had a film called Reality where the whole movie is things are happening and you're not sure whether they are happening or not. And again, if you've seen enough of his films, including this one, although I do feel like this one is his most almost narratively satisfying or cohesive movie.
Probably most
most realism is a good. I heard somebody refer to his films once as all of his movies are movies where it's basically like watching a dream but your eyes are open, or having a dream but your eyes are open. And I feel like that very much is the spirit of surrealism, that there's a kind of a literal kind of consciousness living in the narrative of the movie, but the movie is really about sort of like the subconscious kind of images that you kind of go, wait, I don't really understand what's happening here. And again, this one in particular, very much living in a more, I think, conscious place and a little bit easier to follow. But I just, going all the way back to Rubber, which was the first time I was exposed to him, it was like, oh, okay, you need to kind of turn everything off and just kind of allow the images and the ideas to kind of flow into you, and they either register or they don't. So
yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And yeah, I hesitated to say surrealistic because when I think of surrealism in film, I think of like Jodorowsky, and that's it is dreamlike, but the subconscious is running a little bit more wild in his films than it is in Dupuy's, because in Dupuy's you have these very crazy premises, but it's almost kind of grounded in a normal narrative in a sense, where it's not, at least the ones, I haven't seen all of his films, so I can't say, but the ones that I have seen have these kind of zany ideas behind them, but are very kind of grounded in reality. So that's why I hesitated. But you're right. I think that would be considered surrealism, because in a sense, it is like a dream. It's like you're watching this and it's like, what the fuck? Like, how does somebody come up with this idea, and how does somebody run with this? Like, it's one of those things that it's just like, I would never think to make a movie about a guy who buys a jacket that is talking to him and tells him to kill people, and it only wants to be the
spoiler
alert. Well, I mean, that's kind of like in the synopsis in a sense. But yes, so this is definitely a interesting film, and it also clocks in at just 77 minutes as well. So it's a pretty breezy watch. It would be considered a comedy horror. I think that it's once again, the comedy is derived from some of the surrealism. It's not kind of a laugh out loud punchline a moment movie, but it's in sort of the bizarre situations that this character gets himself into, I think, is where some of that black comedy comes from. So yeah, in essence, the film starts out, it's a little bit out of, the opening scene is a little bit out of order, and they show him filming some kids taking their jackets off and putting them in his trunk and saying that, I don't want to wear jackets again, or something to that degree. And
I will never wear a jacket again.
Yes, I will never wear a jacket again. And then we cut a little bit forward, and then we see, George, the main character, and he is taking his jacket off and trying to flush it down the toilet of, a convenience store, basically. Raven Shout, how did that go?
Poorly, because you can't do that. Once again, don't flush paper towels, don't flush feminine hygiene products, and don't flush members-only jackets down the fucking station toilet. It's fair. As a homeowner, don't fucking flush your jacket in my toilet, bro.
Oh man, so that scene was really ridiculous. He legitimately was trying to flush a jacket down the toilet, and to great comedic effect with the water kind of running everywhere. And he was completely serious about it. Like, he was completely bought into this idea of flushing his jacket down the toilet. Is that something?
And that,
yeah, go ahead, MZ. Go ahead, Ram Shadow.
well, that's some. I mean, from the from the jump, like I jackets mean a lot to me.
You definitely wouldn't have been able to flush your leather jacket down the toilet.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I almost brought it in the back. I mean, you guys know my leather that I've had since I was 20 years old. My waist length black leather jacket that was inspired by Jack Knight Starman.
Yeah.
That I still have to this day, and it's in my closet. And I think it's important. Like your jacket says a lot about you. Like I can't buy a jacket online. You gotta fucking feel it. And your jacket is your armor, right? It has to go with everything. Whatever you're wearing, a button-down shirt, whether you're wearing a fucking rock t-shirt, your jacket is your cape, right? It's Superman's cape. It's your armor. Right?
Yeah, I mean, and that kind of goes hand in hand with what's going on in this a little bit because it's interesting. I actually really loved the character of Denise, who is the waitress, or I guess she worked behind the bar, and I just loved sort of her insight into this, and she was kind of like the true auteur, if you will, of this, and and just with her sort of like the way she looked at it, and she said, oh, like she was asking. So I don't want to get too. It's going to be difficult to kind of give too many spoilers because this movie you kind of need to see it to really get it. So I don't want to go too deep into it, but. Basically, what happens? I'll give a quick little synopsis here before I jump headlong into it. But he buys this deerskin jacket. It's kind of like the jacket of his dreams. He buys it from some
Beast.
The Beast, yes. He buys it from some old man, like off of some like online posting, and he pays him. I don't know. It was. I don't know what the transfer rate was, but it was a lot of money because the guy said, "I've never seen this much money in my life."
Yeah, it was like 7,000 if it was euros.
7,500. Yeah.
7,500 euros, and he was 200 short.
Yeah.
But I think just take it back. I think that toilet scene was him shedding one skin. Go back to the bathhouse.
Yeah.
The bathroom. He was shedding his skin to become somebody else because when we see George. Thank you.
MZ's camera's moving again.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, your phone vibrated.
Don't text Monster Zero during the podcast.
Go ahead, Rick. Shadow. You had something poignant to say here.
I did, and then I got fucking in the back. But no, we come into George's life, midway through, or maybe he's at the denouement because it's French, right? So something amongst him that to get to change him, and he needs to shed his skin and become something else.
Mm-hmm.
He needs armor. He needs to wear something. So it's very like there's a lot of symbolism there.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and obviously at the time we don't necessarily know what he's going through because this is at the beginning of the film. But as we find out very shortly into it, he's going through a divorce, and he is going to stay at a hotel for a month. So, something is going on here. And, so you're right. He does kind of leave one life behind and kind of picks up another one with this jacket. And it's, I don't know if you consider this a kind of a midlife crisis kind of thing, but, it had that sort of feel to it where this was something he'd always wanted. And, and it was his dream jacket, as they said. And a lot of times, you'll hear people going through midlife crisis, getting my dream car or whatever, So it was almost kind of like that, and this sort of led him down this darker path, and he was kind of just allowing and you're right, if you want to call it armor, like he was kind of allowing this new persona to sort of just take him where he wants, take him wherever it goes. So like he wasn't really thinking about it in depth. He wasn't really thinking too hard about. He was just kind of going with the flow, and and then yes, maybe the jacket did talk to him and tell him what to do. But yeah, it is kind of interesting. So there is some meta things that we can kind of talk about with this. That is one of them, and I thought that I just forgot the girl's name. Denise.
Denise.
Yeah, where Denise
Yeah.
had had said, she had kind of made a comment about it, of how about kind of what Raven Shadow said, in the sense that a jacket is somebody's kind of like shell, their armor, their exterior, if you will. And so I think there's some cool stuff behind that. But I also feel, and hope, and I'm sure Jay is going to go here a little bit, is that I feel that Depew in this film was kind of taking shots at what people view him as, or almost like this meta take on his films with with George and the way that he's filming his films. I just felt like there was some meta commentary going on about that as well. Did you get a sense of that, Jay?
Yeah, I don't know necessarily about him per se. I mean, I think you could definitely extrapolate that out for sure. I mean, when I first saw this film the first time, well, let me back up a little bit and sort of say that the thing about his movies is because of the nature of his imagery and potential ideas that you might see because of his imagery, and because we tend to mostly look for meaning, or what's the theme, or what's the idea of this movie. And I feel like a lot of his films, he's really not interested in that. So when you talk about it being a commentary on him, or maybe even a larger commentary about filmmaking or filmmakers or types of filmmakers, right? I mean, I think that becomes kind of obvious, and at the same time, like, I always sort of resist that when I'm watching one of his movies, because again, when I was watching this movie, I wasn't thinking, oh, he's referring to himself. I felt like he was almost commenting on like a certain type of masculine, aggressive kind of filmmaker, right?
Yeah.
And because I sort of feel like where the movie goes eventually, it's like, oh, this controlling kind of violent, person who's sort of out of control, and he's sort of belittling the female, the main female. So I think there's probably something to that, because I think, again, this movie in particular seems to be his most narratively cohesive film. And I think it's hard to kind of watch a movie about a guy making a movie, which is also an element of this film, without thinking the filmmaker is referencing or commenting on filmmaking or the industry, or potentially what maybe you're articulating a little bit there, which is I'm referencing what people think about me, so I'm going to give them the most extreme version of myself.
Yeah.
Even though I will add that, and again, I don't read a ton of reviews, I don't read a ton of articles about movies a lot, but I've never really gotten the sense from interviews I've seen with him or people who've talked about working on movies with him that he's ever had a real negative. Like no one goes, oh, you like don't work with that guy because he's a real asshole. I always feel like it's the audience that sort of thinks he's an asshole because they don't like his movies, and again, I think that's fine, right? If you don't like somebody's movie. So I don't know if it's necessarily him, and more just a certain type of filmmaker. And again, I don't think it's a coincidence that this is the movie he makes in 2019 or 2018, 2019, and it's not the movie he made in 2010, or even Reality, which has a lot of things related to filmmaking, was 2015. So that was like 5 years ago. So I think there is that element of, yes, I think there is something about filmmaking, filmmakers, male filmmakers in particular, and the navigation of all of that. So yeah, I mean, that's all at play for sure, I think.
It's pretty interesting because there is, if you think about it, there are some elements in this about, he without saying too much, he definitely leads Denise on and takes a lot from her. I guess we'll just say that way. And there definitely is an element of that going on, and also just how the actors are exploited in a sense. You know, like I think there is a lot of interesting stuff going on, and some I knew there was some sort of commentary here, but I couldn't put my thumb on exactly what it was. But I think that's a good point, and you know, maybe he's not making commentary on his own work, but maybe just the process of how a lot of films are made and how people are exploited potentially. So, yeah.
But again, if I can butt in for a second, I think that's why surrealism is a good way to talk about his movies, because one of the central ideas of surrealism as a philosophy, and especially as an artistic philosophy, is the idea that it's not conscious, it's not thought about. So as a director or a painter, if you're a surrealist painter, you're not thinking about, oh, this is what I want to create as a painter. You just kind of create it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And obviously as a filmmaker, so if you go all the way back to like Rubber, it's like all he's thinking about is the image of a tire, rolling through the desert. He's not thinking about what that really means. You know what I'm saying? He's not thinking about like, oh, this means this and this is what. Now, again, eventually as you're making it, you probably think, oh, well, this kind of relates to this. And, oh, I'm sort of making a slasher movie here. So maybe I'm commenting on, violent movies or people watching violent movies. Right. But I think that's where the audience, I always say for a surrealist filmmaker, is you have to kind of know the images are going to inform what it means, in quote, and it's not like it means what the director wants you to think it means, because it is this unconscious kind of, throwing a bunch of ideas and images at the wall. And so, at the end of the day, it's like, and so, it usually just starts with one idea and then it just kind of imagery wise and then just kind of goes.
Yeah. You kind of see what you want in it, like a surrealistic artist. Like if you could look at a painting, 10 different people could look at a painting and have 10 different ideas of what it's about, So I think that is right. You're kind of bringing your own sort of view into this as well, and maybe that's why he did keep it a little open-ended in terms of what you want to get from it, and I think that's pretty interesting. Real quick, I just want to read some stuff in the chat room. And Dane says, I'm loving Professor J's comments. Thanks for bringing the movie to the show. He called you a legend.
Oh.
And he said that I really like that virtual cinema idea. I'm actually going to go to my local independent cinema who's selling popcorn and snacks for a few hours on weekends to go support them and have a cheat day for my diet. So there you go.
Do it, Dane. Do it.
Yeah. So not just films, but yeah, a lot of places also are doing popcorn and snacks and stuff as well. So, definitely make sure you're helping your local cinema if you want to make sure they're there on the other end of this. So, how about some other thoughts? I know Jay and I have been talking a lot. MZ, Aries, Raven Shadow. Do you guys have anything to add about this movie? I know it's probably going to be a polarizing film. At least I thought it might be. MZ, you saw Rubber.
Well,
you saw Rubber,
right? Yeah. That was the only film that I ever saw of this guy.
Okay.
And that was a long time ago, and it was good. It was wacky. Just the idea of what the film was about was wacky enough, and the execution, certainly made that come to life, and it worked, and it was fine, and it was an odd flick.
Yeah.
Surreal is one way to put it. Abstract. I would say it's abstract filmmaking. And it's like what you guys were saying before. That you see what you get out of it. 10 different people could see 10 different things. So, but in terms of this, let's see. I just didn't get it. I just did not get this movie at all. Not in terms of the narrative, because just that alone is fairly easy to follow.
Yeah.
But it's execution that had me bewildered. Just looking at it as a normal film, I would say that there's like a shit ton of plot holes, and I suppose I imagine that the viewer is supposed to fill in the blanks. And I guess that's okay, but man, there's just so many questions. I mean, it gets to the point where instead of enjoying the film, now you got to work with the film and try and make it complete in your own mind. I mean, it's fine for it's fine for film to do that, but this was just from beginning to end, question after question after question. Why this? How did this happen? Who is this? When did this happen? And it's just from beginning to end. And because of that, it just became a chore for me. Now, Rubber, I can understand because you're already dealing with the outrageousness of a killer tire out in the desert. So you go along with that ridiculous idea.
Or not.
And so you accept, well, yeah, true. And you accept it. But whereas this is, people out in the real world committing these things, certain things, other people doing other things. So it's out in the real world. It's not fantastical enough. So
I wish we could talk more.
Rubber.
Sorry, go ahead.
Rubber. Well, I was just gonna say where something like that could work in a movie like Rubber, which I did like. This movie, because it's grounded in reality, it just had too many open holes for me to deal with, and the movie ended up just becoming a chore for me.
So I wish we could talk a little bit more in depth, because I'd like to know what you felt were the plot holes, but obviously I don't want to go there because, we're potentially giving spoilers away, and this is a film that is not even available on VOD yet. So I don't want to go too deep into that. But it's
now early on.
Yeah.
Now I just want to say early on in the film, when the guy is purchasing the jacket from the old guy, I thought that was really interesting, because even though the movie, it's about maybe 5 minutes into the movie, 6 minutes into the movie, but we already got an establishment of the camera angles. Like, for instance, before we meet up with him and the guy who he buys the jacket from, the camera shots are rather close up. But when we deal with him buying the jacket from the guy, the camera seems to be tucked away in places, hidden away, as if we're to believe that we're spying in on some secret transaction that's going on. And I thought that was great. And unfortunately, but that's one of the things I did like about it. I thought camera placement, camera movement, I thought that was very well done. I thought the score or soundtrack was excellent.
Yeah.
I don't know who did the soundtrack, but I thought that was excellent. But a lot of the others, and the performances were fairly decent, but apart from that, I just felt like the movie was too much of a work in progress for me to fill in the holes to make the movie complete.
All right, and that's fair. The just to let you know, the score was done by Janko Nilovic. So I'm trying to see what else he's done. Nothing I recognize, but yeah, I would agree. I did really enjoy the score in this as well, and some of the songs picked for the soundtrack I thought were very fitting. Raven Shadow, I want you to talk about this jacket. Would you wear this jacket?
It's hard, man. 'Cause I wear black jackets, dude.
What if it was black?
Maybe, although Aries and I do have a friend that did have a suede jacket like that back in the day. And there's some things, I'm going to walk a line, Johnny. Not like Cash, but like your boy. So
what?
I don't know. Thank you.
Kid Cash?
So stop me. Yeah. It is Kid Cash. Yeah, I like Kid Cash from the EC Dubs at the end. He's no Steve Carino. But I think what we're talking about, I was talking about armor, and I think this could also be a weird not indictment, but something about man versus nature, and almost like, and I'm not saying this is a dig, but almost a very like a pro-vegan kind of film where I think the collection of pelts was very important in this movie. The idea of wearing your skin, maybe your jacket is your skin, and the fact that George's only wanted to be the only one that had a coat or a jacket, right?
Yeah.
And he did those from people. And as his story progresses, he gets more and more into animalistic garb, right? With the imagery of the deer, even too, they had a couple like shots of the deer, if you know what I'm trying to say, where he's assembling his uniform or his costume, but he's collecting scalps along the way. You know,
I mean, I sort of see where you're going, and I wouldn't look at a movie that features a talking deerskin jacket as vegan, but the message of sort of dominion over nature, or animals, could be something there as well. Once again, this is one of those films I think you can see a lot in. I think depends on kind of how you're viewing it and what your perspective is and what you're bringing into it.
And forgive me if I'm not meaning to use the term vegan, but I think dominion is or alpha is a word I'm trying to say, or dominant species. Maybe
Yeah,
it's better.
And I think that's kind of a interesting way to go about it, because especially given we don't know where he came from, like if he was shedding his skin, what that life was, we can guess and we can glean from some of the interactions that he had. Especially with his wife and some of the things that had happened, so we can kind of glean what happened there. And he seems like a guy that's kind of like, was finally coming into his own and maybe trying to find a little bit more of himself. And he gets caught up in this, in this deerskin jacket, and as crazy as it sounds, like this isn't quite rubber. It's not like a killer tire. But there is a leap of faith you have to make here in terms of the story and some of the kind of plot devices around it. So, but yeah, I think what you're saying is interesting. Yeah.
And let's take it one step further. I think man with a very predatory nature. I think George's had a very predatory nature amongst the bartender. Maybe he had that with his ex-wife. We don't know, but he obviously tried to assert himself in an alpha, like dominant role.
Yeah.
Even at the bar where he's like the two women are talking, he's like, "You're talking about my jacket, are you?"
Yeah, that was so fucking creepy and weird.
No, we're not. We're having our own conversation. Oh, people are talking about my jacket.
Yeah, that's a key scene to me. That's a really key scene. I think that's a. I'm glad you picked up on that, because.
Right, like that's the thing.
Rachel, you should take one of Jay's film classes.
Nope, don't do that. No, just because they're not good. So it's.
Oh, come on.
He won't learn anything. You could take my masculinity in the movies class, because there's a whole class dedicated to the penis in that one, and that's a real. I show nothing but penis clips for an hour and 15 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, skinny white guys who think they're Jason Momoa. Yeah, perfect. Really.
It would be like that montage of penises from Nymphomaniac.
Yes. Yeah. It is kind of like that, actually. A little Richard Gere from American Gigolo, a little Viggo Mortensen from Eastern Promises. Hey, throw them all out there. All the.
Yeah.
That was amazing to sit through, I'll tell you.
Is there ever a mainstream actor that's hard, like in a film? You know, at full, you can't be at full power in a picture, right?
You can't be at full power.
Aries, right? Come on.
Well, he's right. He's right.
Why can't you?
Yeah.
If you have like a legit hard on and it's shown in a movie, it's legally classified as pornography
The
pornographic film.
last movie I can remember that had that was that movie Holy Motors. Did you ever see that movie?
No.
Oddly enough, another French film by Leo Carax. And there's a guy, a weird dude who has sitting in a graveyard with a full-on erection while Eva Mendes, I think she jerks him off, but I don't remember exactly.
That's a movie. What's that called again, Jay?
It's called Holy Motors, and it's a great movie. If you don't know that filmmaker, Leo Carax, it's Carax, I think is how it's spelled. But it's called Holy Motors, and it's a really awesome movie. It's bizarre as hell, but it's great. Anyway, back to Deerskin.
Eva Mendes.
I would just add one thing, because I think for me personally, though, and again, to me, I as I sort of articulated before, the thing that when I approach a Depew film is just to kind of try to wash away any sense of trying to figure it out while I'm watching it, and just really. It's like throwing myself in a river and just letting me take it down to stream till it's ending. And then initially I have an opinion and then I start to kind of think about it. But I do think, Raven Shadow hit on something really important because originally he said like man versus nature. But then if you notice when he kind of got all the way back around, it was really talking about man's nature. Right. And that kind of really drives a lot of the movie is, again, we don't know what his life was like and his kind of masculine nature was previous, but we see a transformation into some kind of animal, I don't know, masculine thing. And the fact that he literally is decked out from head to toe at a certain point in the movie in Deerskin, it's like, I don't think it's conscious. I think there's ideas sprinkled in there, and Depew's kind of throwing them in your face, and maybe hoping that you like Raven Shadow did, you kind of go, oh, this is what It was interesting how the guy at the bar thought, well, these women must be talking about me. They couldn't just be having a normal conversation. I'm in the bar. They must be talking about me, right? So. I don't know. I mean, it's and this is what I love about his movies is you can't just grab them and kind of say here's what it is. Oh, okay. Because to me that in a way, filmmaking wise, is, I don't want to say boring, but it's I like the engagement of kind of, I don't know, a nice bath of imagery and ideas.
Yeah.
That allows us to talk about them and engage with them and have different opinions about them, right? Which is what we do here, which is great.
And so I got to ask, because I know this movie had a lot working against it for Aries. It was French, it had subtitles, and it's bizarre. So
yeah, you really lost me at French because that just you might as well just kick me in the nuts. Just French. Oh God. But this movie definitely had a lot going on. I really don't even know how to talk about this movie without spoiling things about this movie. People have said things that I 100% agree with, and people have said things that I 100% disagree with, and I can't speak on those without spoiling the movie because it is things that go along and play out as the movie plays out. I think that what I really can talk about is the jacket in the initial part of the movie where he tries to flush his old jacket to get his new jacket. Raven Shadow mentioned about becoming the new armor and everything else. I do believe he thought that was becoming, he was going from a caterpillar to a butterfly type of thing, where he was becoming a more important person because of this jacket. And he saw that, but no one else did. And that's what his problem was in the bar with the women. Like, he wanted to be noticed. He was peacocking, as people do, that notice me. I have this jacket on, notice me. And they weren't, so he didn't think they were talking about him, but he was looking to have them talk about him. And that's why he interrupted them to be, "Are you talking about me? Are you talking about my jacket?" And and notice me. Like there was one shot where the first time he gets out of his car with that jacket on, you see him kind of move the fringe. Like that was kind of like spreading his wings type of thing.
Yeah.
And he was becoming that person that he thought he was going to be, that no one else saw that. And he really kind of pushed that down people's throats. And as the movie progresses, you see that happening.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And actually, that was I thought a great scene when he got to the hotel, or the motel or the hotel, whatever. And steps out of the car. He's looking at at himself in the mirror and like just admiring his his jacket. And then that woman is looking on down at him. And yeah, he definitely felt he had a different feel to him. Like he felt differently at that moment.
Killer style.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Which again, there's what's interesting about, because again, it's like there's multiple layers of just that phrase, right? Killer style in relation to the movie, both in terms of the narrative, but also in terms of what, other people have talked about in terms of his ideas towards himself, that somehow he's sort of either resurrected or created a style which makes him important or special or,
Well, you know what I mean? I think that term plays a lot into the last item of clothing he gets and then what happens after that.
Yeah.
I feel that is important. That particular item of clothing is important to the ending of this movie.
Yeah.
And it's subtle, but very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would as well, very much. I mean, there is something about that last purchase that kind of drives something home.
Yeah.
Or should drive something home, or yeah.
And I don't want to comment too much on it because it would be giving too much away, I believe. But I thought the gore that we did get in this was pretty well done as well. What did you think, MZ? I know obviously you're the resident gore hound, if you will. So what did you think of the gore in this?
It's no Mac and me.
No.
No. And no kids in a wheelchair get shot either. So
although
that's another striking.
Yeah.
Although there is some violence against kids.
Yeah. I thought the violence in this movie was pretty neat. That's when you figure the weapon.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like the weapon.
What was done to create the weapon and how to, in a certain sense, perfect the weapon to make it the killing machine that it is, I thought was interesting and fun, and highly effective too, because we get to see him use it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't really get too much gore in this movie. I mean, there's violence, but there's no real substantial gore. But I like that part of it for what it was.
I especially like the hood or the roof of the car. That was probably one of my highlights. I guess we'll say. But yeah, I thought. I mean, it wasn't gratuitous. I'll give it that. But I think it was really interesting, and I did really enjoy the relationship between George's and Denise. I thought that was such kind of this cool little dynamic, and how Denise's arc sort of changed throughout. I thought was really, really interesting. And if you take that with the dynamic of George and sort of how he was changing, it's interesting to kind of see the two of them and how they kind of like dovetail together a little bit. Dane had a good point. He says, I agree with the professor. Might not be good for a discussion show, but I thought it was a turn the brain off and enjoy the hilarious insanity type of movie. And Evil Corny says, very insane.
See, I don't know if it's a turn the brain off thing.
No, this is not a turn the brain off film.
Well, you know what? I will say this is a turn the brain off and take it all in, and then after, play it back in your head, because this movie is better when you think about it after the fact.
Yeah, and I think I don't want to speak for Dan, but I think that's what he meant, is turn it off while watching it. And then, yeah, kind of, I was doing a little bit of the opposite because, not the opposite, but I was, I usually take notes while we're watching. So I look for things. And so, while I did enjoy this movie, I think that, being able to kind of like watch it all the way through without kind of pausing and taking notes might have been a better experience. I will say that.
Yeah, and I would just say, when I talk about, again, whatever the phrase is, turning a brain off, or it's just turning the brain off in the sense of it kind of gets a little bit to MZ's critique a little bit, which is that like not trying to think about what's going on, right? Like not try to because that's kind of what I think, and every audience comes to different movies in different places, but we are sort of trained from when we study English literature. We're trained in this very kind of classical Hollywood narrative structure, right? There's your inciting incident, and then there's the and it's sort of like you have to follow these arcs as a storyteller to get to the climax, and then have the as Raven Shadow said, the denouement or the falling action or whatever, right? And again, this movie does, and I think to MZ's credit, when he sort of talks about the struggle with this movie, is it does ride a fine line because it is such a straight kind of causal linear narrative, right? I mean, it's sort of like guy shows up at a hotel, guy goes to bar, guy meets a woman, but it's like it is that kind of thing. But I think there is an element of at least with him as a filmmaker, I kind of know going in. It's the same with someone like Refn, right? Where my brain is like, I don't want to think about the narrative of the film. I want to engage with the film and experience it and be part of it. And then, like Ari says, kind of afterwards, maybe start thinking about like, well, what stood out to me? What maybe, like MZ's doing, what maybe was problematic that I still can't, there's a film that was put out a couple years ago, which I want to say is a great film. It's called Demon. It's a Polish movie. I don't know if anyone's seen it.
Oh yeah, we did it on the show. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But there's like one thing early in the movie that I just cannot wrap my brain around. So it like keeps me from like really enjoying the movie, right? And it's the same thing that MZ's talking about with like if you start getting caught up in these things, it will take you out of them after the fact. Because if you start thinking about it, you go, I just can't. There's something about this moment I don't buy, or they didn't give me enough information, or they didn't do something. But I think this is where just like a Refn or, this director in particular, I mean, this person put something out, I kind of already know what I'm getting into. And then therefore I'm really just kind of there to engage with it and go, what are you giving me? What are you giving me? Yeah. What are you giving me? And your brain's not off because you're, as Ari said, you're kind of absorbing it all and you are processing it all. Because the thing that's interesting about talking about a surrealist filmmaker is you as the audience are conscious, right? Whereas the art might be subconscious. And so there's this interesting dynamic that goes on when you look at a Dali painting or something, there's a subconscious nature to the imagery there, but consciously you are looking at it and going, what is this? What is he showing me? What is he trying to tell me? And the more you can do that, I think, with Depew as a filmmaker, again, ultimately just for me as an audience member, the more you'll enjoy the work. You might still at the end get to a point where you say, it just doesn't all add up, right? It doesn't, and I just don't enjoy it, right? And that's why something like Greasy Strangler to me is a very surrealist movie, right? It is a surrealist film. It is abstract, right? But because the comedy sort of takes over for that, where you can go, it's comedy, right? It's goofy and it's silly and it's funny. So I'm almost trained as an audience to not accept this as really meaning anything because it's so a dude's got a chicken cock, right? Okay, that doesn't mean anything, does it? Yeah. And again, what I love is when you just put that up, MZ. He's got the Australian. I have that release as well. He has the Australian release with extra footage and all that kind of stuff. But that's the idea, right? Comedy will allow it, but this movie's kind of a drama, right? You said comedy horror. I would call it like a drama horror film, right? It's more drama than. And so to me, when we get into drama, we think, no, drama's about something, right? It's about the family, or it's about marriage, or it's about relationships, or it's about masculinity, as kind of Raven Shadows talked about. And to me, it's as surreal. And I would argue you can see a lot of Depew in Hosking's work, right? In Greasy Strangler, in Beverly Loughlin, in his Tropical Cocktails. There's a lot of sort of odes to Depew in Hosking's work as an English director who's sort of, I don't want to say stealing from Depew, but he's sort of referencing Depew's surrealist, abstract ideas, right? So, and that's why I like talking about movies like this, because to me, this is what's interesting. A simple causal linear narrative, okay, that was a nice story. Okay, you did a good job, but I'm going to walk away and never think about this movie again, right?
Yeah. And that's definitely a fair point. Dane says it's hard to describe, but I mean trying not to analyze things too much as you're watching it. He says, "Thanks, Aries, for saving me sound like a dumbass."
Right, no, I'm there with you. I know you. The thought is in your head, and you just can't get it out of your mouth. I understand.
So does MZ. All right. Well, I think we've talked a pretty good amount about this, so I think maybe it's about time that we head to the verdict on this one and find out what everyone thought.
Trick or treat, baby.
I wonder if people would say you're a trick or a treat.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
All right, it is verdict time. We're going to let you know whether this flick was a trick or a treat and any final thoughts we may have. I guess maybe it's the worst kept secret on the show because he obviously talks about films that he likes. But let's start out with Jay and find out what he thought of Deerskin.
Loved it. I love Depew. I like I say, I sort of worship at the altar of Quentin Depew. I would highly recommend if you want to see something really neat related to him, because I think MZ mentioned the music. One of the things about Depew is he goes by Mr. Oizo, I think. He's a musician, so that's where he started. And a lot of his early movies, Rubber, Wrong Cops, have music from him, old like DJ music that he did. But I would recommend I would recommend this movie. I love it. But I would also recommend searching out on YouTube a music video of his that was directed by Eric Wareheim from Tim and Eric, called, I think it's called Ham. It's 3 minutes and it's a music video and it's brilliant. And so it gives you a nice, if you don't like this movie necessarily, it's just a music video, but it kind of encapsulates everything we're talking about. But yes, a trick 100% for me. And I think everyone should seek out some of his work. Start with Rubber. I think that's a great place to start, especially if you like horror films or slasher films, right? Follows that formula. And so, yeah, that's
all right. I think you said trick, but you mean treat, right?
Trick. Oh, treat, trick or treat. It's a treat. Yeah, no, it's a treat. It's a treat. Yeah.
I just wanted to be clear because occasionally MZ will talk about loving a movie and then we'll get to his verdict and he'll be like, trick, I didn't like it. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. For me, definitely a treat. Yeah.
All right, let's go to MZ.
Yeah. I can appreciate the man's work. I really can, because I did like Rubber. It was, it's been a long time since I've seen it. It's been like 8 years since I've seen it. I really should revisit it. I think it's on one of the streaming platforms right now, so maybe tomorrow I'll take another look at it. But I really felt like there was a lot of unanswered questions, and while that might say to some people, the director is just trying to be deep or just trying to allow the viewer to make up their own mind as to why things happen the way they do, how things happen the way they do. And I'm all for that. That's perfectly fine. The thing here is that it's constantly going on in this movie from the beginning frame to end frame. It's just relentless. There are times where this movie is really enjoyable, and I think it's at the times where it's most cohesive that I think it's at its most enjoyable for me. This might work for other people. Unfortunately, it does not work for me. Like I said, I think the score works great. I think the performances were fine. I think the camera work was done really, really well at times. But I think it's just, for me, it just felt like there was a lot of work involved where I have to finish the film myself. And that's unfortunate because I don't want to be working while I'm watching a movie. And I get the narratives going on as far as the deerskin jacket being on him and how it relates to I guess primal man to the man that he's become and all this other stuff. I get that. But I just don't want to put in that much work to enjoy it. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to give this a treat. Trick.
Is this Opposites Day?
Well done, sir. Well done.
Timestamp.
Timestamp.
All right, there's a lot inside me I got to get out.
Ew.
Yeah. I
Wow.
I'm gonna
Really?
Way to go, Wolfie.
There's so much to get out. That's it, huh?
There's a feeling I've had watching this movie that I haven't had since I was 18. And it by no means is it a apples to apples comparison. And there are plenty of movies that I've been bothered by. And I was never bothered by this film. But for some reason, watching this, it took me back to being 18, watching Henry for the first time. And it's a weird, I'm not sure how I can quantify that experience. And Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, for those who
Yeah, I was going to say.
it ain't like fucking, whatever the fuck. But anyway, it's not even the same thing, not even the same sport or ballpark. But it was an uneasy watching. Not like in an uncomfortable, our revenge film kind of way, Last House on the Left or whatever the fucking, that piece of shit derailed movie with Jennifer Aniston and Clive piece of shit Owens. That
fuck.
He's a fucking pussy, dog. Correct. Fucking big, fucking tough guy. I don't know. But no, I kind of wish I saw 15 minutes earlier of Georgia before he goes to town, and I would like to see 15 minutes of Doris after the credits rolled.
Denise.
That's not a criticism, but I just wanted more. So maybe that's a positive, right? I really want to talk about the ending with you guys, maybe offline or some other time. But yeah, it was a very weird viewing experience. I don't know who I could recommend this to, but I would be very eager to have a conversation with about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you ain't playing this. That's on Samurai Night. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, it's not the same about.
What about Blackout Night? Does it work?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what you can work that in?
Well,
there are two maniacs who would go to Samurai Night that fucking adore the Greasy Strangler, and I'm like, well, that's a fucking.
Are you one of them?
You know what? I like that the second viewing more than the first.
Because you know all the lines.
Yeah, fucking fucking hard to fucking recap. Bullshit artist, horseshit artist, whatever the fuck.
Disco Cutie. Was that?
Disco Cutie. I don't fucking know, dog.
Why you keep calling? You're so used to living with Ollie now. You call everyone dog.
No, I like to answer the hop.
It's just you and Ollie.
Yeah, it's Ollie and I.
We're
Thank
all
you.
not dogs.
Well, in a way, you know, there's a voice of our dumps. I don't fucking know. Jay's here. I thought about this film a lot. I was in the shower today. I was in traffic. I didn't realize Jay grew his hair so long, looking so fucking sexy. That's nice. So, I think.
Oh my God! Say something, or I'm gonna go lay down and take a nap.
Yeah, really.
Raven Shadow's verdict is longer than the movie.
I don't think he said anything about the film yet.
No, and you know what? Aries, you're up because now I'm talking about your background. I like the fucking monkey mobile you have in the back. I like the fucking Jim Lee Batman and the Jay and Silent Bob bookends you got going on over there. Don't think I don't notice what you got going on.
What about Jay's Lone Wolf McQuaid poster?
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Come on, man.
Oh shit.
I'm writing a book about that movie.
Oh shit.
And he also has a Drive poster too.
That's it.
Oh, no,
That's over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see the fucking car. He never drove once in that fucking film.
Yeah, he did. He drove a lot.
The whole beginning of the movie is driving.
First 15 minutes.
I don't know.
What about Deerskin, Raven Shadow?
Yeah, really. Come on.
Oh, Raven Shadow. Corny says, "I'll call you about the film tomorrow." Raven Shadow.
Do that.
There you go.
There you go.
Blackout tapes.
All right, Corny. Around like 6:30 tomorrow, Eastern Central Time.
AM or PM?
Fuck. No, I'm working on it. So PM. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that I really fuck Bo Buck.
That's very appropriate for a deerskin jacket.
Yeah, oh Bucks. Yeah. I miss the young Bucks. I would say this is a tepid treat of weirdness.
Okay.
I don't
You're
know.
a tepid treat of weirdness.
Sometimes. I think we can all agree on that, right?
So is that it?
Is it? Is that
Aries
Jay?
is gonna drive to your fucking house and
Wait, am I looking the right way? Like, am I strangling you right now?
no, the other direction.
Other dog.
You have to go through Jay first.
Just do Vader, be like that. You know. You're Admiral Piet. Right.
All right,
Jay.
So, tepid treat of weirdness. All right,
Jesus.
fine. All right,
All that for tepid treat of
yeah.
weirdness.
All right, Aries.
Okay, I'll try to keep this short. I did enjoy this movie. There was a lot going on, as I said. You know, you kind of, you know, just take it in as you watch it and then reflect on it after the fact. It'd be great if you had four friends to sit and chat about it with. Like I wish we could speak with spoilers about this, because I would love to speak to these gentlemen about this movie with the spoilers. The score was outstanding. I feel that it was very understated. There's a very noir feel to it going on. Like, I don't know if anyone else got that.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, it was very, you know, not understated, very overstated as far as that noir feel. So it just kind of, you know, whatever little subtle noir, it was just kind of took away from it, I guess. Me being a fan, I picked that up. But I feel this film's biggest flaw, kind of Tarantino-esque, where it's a whole lot of build up to a punchline. And the punchline is good. I mean, don't get me wrong, but there is, like Tarantino, it's just, there's just a lot of story, like meaningless story, but it is good till it gets to that punchline. So don't take that as a bad thing. It's just, That's just how I interpreted it. But this movie is a treat. So, Wolfie, go.
All right. Yeah, I don't have a ton more to say. But this, to me, this was definitely a treat. I did enjoy this, and it was probably, I think, like Jay said, this was probably the most straightforward narratively film of Depew's that I've seen. So it's I'm not going to say it's like Hollywood or mainstream at all, but maybe the most approachable if you're looking at a Depew film. But I think that there was a lot of interesting things going on here. And as we talked about, a lot of the things that were highlighted earlier about looking at like surrealistic art, I think you can kind of glean a lot from this, and you can kind of take out what you want. There is a lot to unpack here. It may be a simple plot and a simple story, but I think there is a lot to unpack here. And I think it's a really interesting film that Depew has released here. And so far, like I've only seen this and Rubber. So there's a few other films of his that I have not seen. But for me, he's 2 for 2, and I'm definitely going to go check out some of his other work as well. Because now I kept meaning to after seeing Rubber, and just never had. But now this will be the impetus for me to check out more. So yeah, for Deerskin, I'm going to go ahead and give it a treat. I dug it, and I think for people out there, I mean, you can kind of get a sense. Jay and myself and Aries liked it. Raven Shadow was a little on the fence, but definitely more on the treat side. And MZ thought it was a trick. So, kind of go in depending on who you agree with or not. But I think it's a breezy watch, 77 minutes, and I think there's enough interesting stuff going on here. And it definitely would fall into the horror kind of genre with a lot of the stuff that happens kind of in the second half of this without giving too much away. So, I think definitely there is definitely a good element of horror as well. So, well, there you go. That's our discussion about Deerskin. You can catch it currently in virtual screening rooms across the internet. You just have to, look up your local independent art house theater and see if they're offering a virtual screening room of it. If not, you could always go check out the one that Jay works with, Charlotte Film Society. Was that it, Jay? Charlotte Film Society?
That's correct.
Yep. So you can look that up if you don't have one in your local area, and check it out. And like Jay said, it's going to be on VOD within several weeks at the end of June. So if you want to wait for VOD, you can wait for that. All right, so next week, the film we're going to be doing is this is one I've been looking forward to for a little bit here. It is a follow-up. I think it's the follow-up feature. Let me see. There may have been one other in here. Let me just double check. So yeah, no, okay. So it is the follow-up feature to the film Goodnight Mommy, from the directing duo of Severin Fiala and Veronica Franz. And the name of the film is The Lodge. Have you seen? Assume you've seen this, Jay?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Been looking forward to this one, and it just hit VOD, I believe, a few days ago. So it is available out there if you guys want to check out The Lodge, and it is, like I said, directed by the duo who made Goodnight Mommy, which we did a couple years ago. So it's got
and reviewed it favorably.
Yeah, for the most part, I think we did. It's got a pretty interesting cast as well. Alicia Silverstone is in it. Richard Armitage, Riley Keough. So it's got some actors and actresses that we've seen before. So looking forward to checking out The Lodge. It is available. Creepy Girl says it's on Hulu. Well, there you go. I thought it was just VOD, but look at that. If it's on Hulu, she said, yeah, I just watched it. So there you go. Check out The Lodge, everybody. We'll be doing that next week. And if you guys have thoughts, you want to send them in, send an email or a voice message, send them to podcast@trickortreatradio.com. All right, we're going to start to wind things down here. We do have one voicemail, so it's not a very long one, but we got one voicemail. And I have a feeling he's going to talk about the film, so be interested to get his thoughts. It'll be a little extension, I believe. And I I don't know if you've met him in person, Jay, but Josh, otherwise known as Arkham Josh, who has screened films in his area of Rhode Island, and also he's a film projectionist as well. I believe you guys had spoken on a couple occasions. So this is from Arkham Josh. Let's see what he's got to say this week.
Hey, Trick or Treat Radio guys, it's Arkham Josh here. Just calling in with my thoughts on this week's film, Deerskin. I am a fan of the filmmaker's work. I enjoyed Rubber, plus his films Wrong and Wrong Cops. I thought all three of those were kind of good examples of kind of absurdist comedy. So once you guys announced this one, I was very excited. I did like the film, and I am going to recommend the film, but I'm also going to say that I didn't like it as much as his previous films. I don't know if it was the fact that it seemed a little more subdued and less crazy, which is weird to say, given the concept of this film. But I still really liked it. I still want to see the film that he did after this, Mandible, which is apparently about some people that find a giant fly and try to profit off of it. But yeah, I thought that the story was interesting. The photography was pretty good. Thought the actors were good. Very interesting that the two leads, at least like in France anyway, they're two very like well-known dramatic actors. I know the lead actor. I think he was at least nominated, if not won, an Academy Award for that film, The Artist, a few years back. And the lead actress has been in a bunch of French dramatic films, but most recently was the lead in Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Definitely not the kind of film you would expect them to appear in. And she's also apparently in the next film, Mandible, as well. So, very interesting. But I also really liked the soundtrack to this film. Had a really good kind of throwback feel without being too, like, in your face about it. So overall, I enjoyed the film. I couldn't even call it minor disappointment. I liked it. I just liked the other few films better. So overall, it is a treat and a recommend. Very interested to hear the discussion about this film, and I don't know, interested to hear what you guys are going to come in next time. Also, I know you guys mentioned about having me call in sometime. I could probably get Skype on my computer, and I think I have an old headset kicking around here somewhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys want me on sometime soon. Just let me know. All right. So you guys have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Awesome. Well, glad you dug the flick, first of all, Josh. And,
cool.
And yeah, definitely, we'll make that happen. Make it happen. Since who knows when the next time Raven Shadow's going to have company in the studio. He's lonely, folks.
Seriously, just fucking come over.
Just come over. Sleep over.
Yeah, take your pants off, bring him back.
You can get 6 feet distance on that bench, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, you are a condor, so you do spread out kind of wide.
My wingspan.
We should set up a website like Lonely Virgil, Lonely Raven Shadow.
Yeah. I'm like a 12-inch.
Just pictures of Raven Shadow. Just a whole bunch of pictures of Raven Shadow just sitting by himself with nobody bothering him.
I'm gonna buy him a blow-up doll.
Bring it over.
Oh man. So I did look it up, and
blow it up for him.
Creepy Girl is right. The Lodge is on Hulu, so if you guys have Hulu, you can just watch The Lodge right there. You don't have to. You don't even have to go to VOD. So also, it's funny since she's in the next room. T-Dog overheard me say Riley Keough, and she just happened to text me and tell me that Riley Keough is Elvis's granddaughter. So that's kind of a cool little thing. It's Lisa Marie's daughter, Lisa Marie Presley's. So kind of
that's interesting.
Kind of cool. So Riley Keough, we've seen a few films that she's done. I think we did one just recently. What was the one that we did with her?
Yeah.
Hold the Dark, I think, might have been. Oh, she was also in Under the Silver Lake. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we didn't see it, but she was also in The House That Jack Built. We didn't do that for the show, but she was in that, and she was also in It Comes at Night as well. So
I hear House Jack Built is pretty fucking insane.
yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I'm sure Jay has.
I'm trying to usurp MZ with fucked up movies. So but I feel like I have a long way to go when he starts bringing up all those Mondo films from Italy in the 60s and 70s. It's like fuck.
But you're a real person, Jay.
I'm seeing arty Lars von Trier shit. I saw the Jack Built in a theater. Director's cut in a movie theater.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long is the director's cut?
I don't know. It's 2 something.
Oh, okay.
2:45 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
I'm sure MZ would love that movie.
Back to back, I watched what was it? Antichrist, Nymphomaniac 1, and then Part 2, all in a row.
Wow. Jesus Christ!
It took me.
It
took me a long time.
Yeah.
Did you lose a bet?
A long time.
That's a lot of dicks.
Time to get down.
That's a lot of dicks.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get down.
It's also a lot of Charlotte Gainsbourg. So I'd watch her in various states of undress for several hours in a row as well. So
yeah, she's pretty spectacular, and a good actress too.
Yeah,
legit good actress.
You can even have a conversation with her.
Yeah. I mean, didn't she do that 50 Shades of Grey movie?
Who, Gainsbourg?
Yeah.
I have no idea. No idea.
I think she did. I think so. I don't know.
I'm looking on her IMDb. I'll take a look.
All right. She's great. She's great in those movies, so she really is.
She did do Independence Day Resurgence, though, MZ. You're going to have to watch that now.
No.
Will Smith isn't in that one. You can watch that one.
Oh, it's true.
No. That doesn't help.
Can I talk about one observation I made? I want to reference this before I lose it. One of my favorite things in the discussion of Deerskin, and it really was related to Raven Shadow and Ares.
Oh boy! Was
whenever Raven Shadow was talking, watching Ares react.
That's not a good thing. Don't do that.
No, it was amazing because Raven Shadow was talking when he was like dissecting the movie and talking about man versus nature and all that stuff, and all Ares was doing was this.
He's looking up at me.
And then hold on, I'll let you respond. And then when he was giving his wrap up, it was this for half the wrap up.
That's par for the course.
You see, he doesn't watch me when he's talking, so he wouldn't have known that.
Oh shit! Sorry.
But now I do. And then Jay, my oldest friend, by the way, my big. That's nice. Nice. So,
no, but what I'm saying is, as an observer, it adds an entertainment value to the podcast because there's like multiple. You're like hearing one thing, but you're watching something else, and it was just. I was like, this is moi. This is beautiful.
So that's just incentive for people to actually watch this rather than just listen to it.
Yes. And again, ultimately, it's as you talked about. I want to talk to my friends about these movies, and it's like it enhances that idea of like these are people who care about each other in a great way, but at the same time, like,
I've known this asshole too long to listen to his bullshit.
Yeah. I'm not. That's why when you started talking at a certain point, you were like, "Are you gonna just say something?" Because I can't because my brain, what I'm thinking is Aries thinking I can't do this for much longer.
I sometimes sympathize. I could sometimes sympathize with him. I could sometimes sympathize with you, Aries.
I like he's pointing at him.
Did he actually point at me?
Yeah,
I don't
he
even
did.
know. I can't get track.
He did point at you.
So he's not going to point back?
Outside observer, outside person, kind of coming into being led into the family for a hot second. I'm like, oh, I like this dynamic. I like this. I like it.
I genuinely feel bad for him. I really do.
Now he's getting it. Yeah, he's pointing.
Because of this guy. Because of this guy.
See,
he can't stop.
It makes me want to push. It makes me want to put Aries underneath Raven Shadow's camera, but he told me specifically not to. He said, "Do not put me under Raven Shadow." So
why?
What?
It would make a nice dynamic though, because you'd be looking up like, yeah, you shake your fist at him.
Shaking my fist at him.
Knock it off! Oh, wait, he could do the knock it off Raven Shadow. It's like he's on the floor beneath you. He'd take the broomstick and hit up on the ceiling.
And I'm like, I'm 20 years old, knocking down boots. My parents are pissed because they're watching Friends downstairs.
Knock it off. Knock it off.
Oh, shit. I'm going to try to delay for a second because Dane is trying to send a voice message. So I'll try to delay a moment, but otherwise we're going to start to wrap things up here. So
yeah, and if he's in Australia, he's like in tomorrow. He's calling from the future.
He is.
It's
tomorrow. Tomorrow. We need to check back tomorrow.
Yeah, it's tomorrow there.
It just came in. So let me get this set up, and we're gonna hear from Dane Under.
What stock should I buy, Dane?
Yeah. Who has toilet paper?
Yeah, is that a stock nowadays?
Is there a cure yet?
Surprising.
Can we stop
Surprise me.
All right, let me see. It's a weird file type, but let me see if I can open this up.
The dingo file.
It's on a floppy disk.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Faxed a floppy disk from tomorrow in Australia. From the bush.
All right, I got it working. So let me go ahead and turn the volume up in this, and let's hear Dane.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm really enjoying watching the show today because this is a movie that I really loved and enjoyed. I seen it at that Monster Fest film festival a while ago in November, and it was one that really surprised me. When I was going over the schedule, there was another movie I could have picked, but I've seen a man who has a relationship with his jacket, and I said, that sounds really bizarre, man. I like those sort of bizarre movies. So yeah, I went to see this one, and it was one of the movies that I really enjoyed the most in out of the whole film festival. The things that let me talk about the type of movie that it is. I liked what Raven Shadow said about stripping his skin, getting rid of his jacket, and then getting this new jacket. For me personally, I thought it was just. I disagree with Professor J. I think it really was a comedy, a dark comedy of just bizarre, absurdist humour. That was played straight, but and definitely not for everyone, as you can see on this show today. Because I really thought MZ would enjoy it, but similar to The Lobster, just not in any particular way, but in terms of just being completely out there. I think the only thing I can think of is maybe the director was commenting on, the whole midlife crisis thing of when you get a new motorbike or even just dressing up in particular, when you put a suit on or a leather jacket and you feel different and you feel better about yourself if you like the look. I think it was maybe just taking that to the nth degree. And then I think it's just about one man's descent into insanity. And so it was illustrated in the cinema that it's a divisive film where a lot of the people were like, maybe it might have been half and half. A lot of people were quiet and just going like, so, what the fuck? And some people just cackling, laughing, and I was one of them, cackling, laughing. Man, I really love this from the discussion, without getting into spoiler territory, the discussion at the bar. You're talking about my jacket, aren't you?
Yeah.
And the his quest that he's on to rid the world of certain things. The creation of the weapon was great. The that kid that something violent happens there where I don't know why that's funny, but I found it funny because all he did was hang around and stare at him, and then the eventual climax of what happens there is pretty funny too, and funny in a way that I can't describe. But yeah, man, I really love this movie. I'm going to check out the filmmaker's other things, and the main thing I'd say, which I really loved about this movie, was I'd never seen anything like it before, and that's hard to do in this day and age, Okay, have a good show, guys.
All right, Dane. Thanks, man. It's always fun, always fun to hear from our brother from the future there, Dane Under. So we appreciate you calling in, bud.
Yeah, next time you're thinking of having me on, have him on instead. Jeez, that's an articulate man right there. Damn
it. Yeah, Dane's awesome. So we appreciate that, Dane. And that's it for voice messages for today. Let's see. Kind of wind things down. Anything else, Jay? Is there any other films coming up that you think people should be on the lookout for, or any ones that are out now?
Yeah, no, it's again, it's really hard to think of things, because it's like, especially when you see things at festivals, you see things so
you kind of see them
early
out of order and you don't know
about them until they pop up. I will say that it's quite a departure from kind of the things that normally get talked about on this podcast. But there's a documentary coming out, I think tomorrow, or today if you're listening to the podcast on Friday, called Spaceship Earth, which is a documentary about Biosphere 2, which is being put out by Neon, which is actually a really wonderful documentary that I watched recently. Yeah, it's hard to think of like genre stuff, or there's another film that's coming out at some point this year that I watched recently called Freeland, which is it's a drama about an older woman who grows pot for a living, and she's sort of being caught up in this. She grew it illegally, and now it's because it's being sort of corporatized and, kind of legalized. She's sort of caught in this weird in between. So that's an interesting movie. I will plug, if I may. Actually, I just thought of this. A filmmaker is a friend of mine. His name is Owner Tukel. He's actually from North Carolina. He lives in New York now. He's made a bunch of movies. He's got a couple of films that should be coming out in the next 6 months or so. But he has a film called The Misogynists, which played a few theaters before they shut down. Was supposed to do a run in L.A. And it's basically a movie with Dylan Baker, who you might know from like Happiness or what was that zombie one with the zombie who was like the domesticated zombie? I can't remember. Was recently in that Al Pacino Nazi hunting movie or TV show.
He was in Land of the Dead, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
he was in Trick or Treat as well.
He was in Trick or Treat. He's the neighbor in Trick or Treat. But he's in a movie that should be out at some point in the next couple of months called The Misogynists, which is a really small film that was filmed in New York, and it's 2 Trump supporters on the night of the election. And I think it's brilliant, and it's a shame that it's not getting kind of wider. So I would just highly recommend to people, not in a political way, but just I would highly recommend a small independent movie like that to keep an eye on. But also, if you're interested in smaller budget indie films, check out Owner Tukel. He has a really great indie comedy called Summer of Blood. And he also has a really nice film called Applesauce, which are kind of good indie comedy dramas, a little horror sometimes thrown in there. So that's stuff that I would just throw out there. Yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, I'm not familiar, but and if people are looking him up, I had to look it up because I wasn't sure how to spell it. ONUR, Owner Tukel, TUKEL, and yeah, it looks like his film The Misogynists. Looks like it sounds pretty interesting. So.
Yeah, it was getting a release. We screened it in Charlotte here. It played in New York for a week. It played in Somerville for a week. It was going to have a week run in LA, but it was right as everything was shutting down. So it was getting some momentum, and then it just kind of flattened a little bit. So I don't know what the plans are in terms of its release, but I would highly recommend if it pops up, even if it pops up on Hulu or Netflix, watch it. It's really funny. It's really vulgar. And it also, I think, speaks to kind of where we are societally at this time and place. So I really liked it a lot. He made a really good film too. I think it's on Netflix called Catfight. Speaking of Alicia Silverstone, Sandra Oh, Anne Heche. It's basically a film about 2 women beating the shit out of each other for an hour and a half. And I think it's generally a brilliant movie. So I am biased. I'm a friend of his, but I'll plug his shit.
I know what MZ's doing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that kind of women beating the. It's not, it's more of a drama, but I think MZ would like Summer of Blood though. I think he'd like that movie as a little indie horror comedy. If he has a list of horror comedies, I think that would be a good one to check out.
I'm not afraid to check out anything.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said that. I feel like
Well, there you go. Summer of Blood, MZ.
I'll take a look at it. Summer of Blood. All right.
And actually, I just thought of another question for you, Jay. Not to put you on the spot again, but obviously, I know you go to a lot of film festivals, and you even put them on. What is this like? Obviously, with the way things are right now, do you think virtual film festivals will be able to take off, or do you think that inherently there's a lot of issues with that, especially as it relates to distribution and potentially having films get out there way early?
I think to try to make a short answer to that question, which I'm not good at, I don't want to wish ill will to anyone who's doing virtual film festivals, but I really hope they don't become a thing.
Yeah.
I hope in the short term, as festivals are trying to recoup money that's been spent and trying to not, but I think it relates to what Dane was talking about going to a festival like Monster Fest and having to kind of like in the moment, without really knowing a lot about a movie, kind of choose and have that experience with a large audience is really important, I think, especially for genre films, especially for films that need that audience push, people who see those films at a festival and push them along and say, you have to see this when it comes out at your theater, or it has to come out, when it comes out on VOD or something. I think when these films come out just online, they're almost disposable, and I think filmmakers are really wrestling with what to do about that, right? So again, I mean, ultimately I hope those festivals are successful. Fantasia is going to be doing an online thing at the end of the summer, so that people are going to have access to watching films from Fantasia Festival in Montreal that they wouldn't normally have access to because they couldn't go to Fantasia. So I think that's really good. But I think even they would tell you that's just a stopgap to making sure to have people in the room and being able to experience those, 1,000 people watching, I don't know, a really bizarre, Swedish horror film or something for the first time. So I'm sort of torn a little bit, I will say in Charlotte here, we have a festival at the end of September where we bring a lot of different movies, and we're, planning on being live as long as we can. So, and we will probably postpone to keep the live element as opposed to going virtually, because I just think for me, it's more fun. Like we had a great discussion talking Deerskin, but I would have loved to have, sat in a theater with the 5 of you and watched this movie, and then afterwards had this discussion afterwards, right?
Yeah.
And being able to sort of talk about, oh, people react to that. Dane was giggling at that moment, and you know what I'm saying? That is important, I think, for these types of movies. Which might not be as important for something like The Martian or something. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and I would agree. The virtual film festival is a tough thing, because in this day and age, like that's your only way to control your film, like is to get it in front of the right eyes and then have if it doesn't have distribution, have people bid on it and find some distribution avenue for it. And if it's out there, it takes that step away. And so if it gets out there on torrents, or if it's available for people to watch online, then no one's going to watch your movie. Like that's in talking to some filmmakers, I know that it's sacred, like having that debut, and once you debut it, you're sort of at a disadvantage as well, like at festivals, it seems. So you have to be very careful about where you release your film and when and where and all that. So if you're doing it online, I imagine some companies probably won't even touch it because it's already been out there, it's already seen. So it is a different dynamic, and I hope that things get back to normal for a lot of reasons, but especially for the creators and the filmmakers to be able to have the regular avenues to be able to get their films out there and have them be seen.
Yeah, I mean, we already saw that with South by Southwest. I mean, Amazon had a deal with them, and most of the features, the shorts, people are fine, right? Because there's no money to be made on shorts, and there's probably really no money to be made on features either. But most of the feature people were like, we're not going to put that on Amazon as part of South by Southwest Festival, because we need to have that in-person live premiere or some kind of thing where, and again, I think it's because, you have to remember, if you put something on Amazon or even Netflix, it gets wrapped into everything else that's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And most people aren't going to spend the time to go find, this movie. If Deerskin was on Netflix, nobody's going to see it, right? Unless somebody tells them to go see it.
Right.
Nobody's going to Netflix being like, oh, it's not showing up on their homepage. Oh, Deerskin's on Netflix? I got to watch that. They're watching Middle March and whatever, right? Or they're watching Clone Wars on Disney Plus, or, whatever. And again, not that there's anything wrong with any of that, but I do think, when you have so much choice online, it really becomes like you just go to what's safe and comfortable as opposed to, at least when you're at a festival, you're like, all right, what am I seeing here? I'm seeing something new. I don't know what this is. Somebody told me in a line at another movie, you really need to see. And that's how, I would argue for myself, that's how I really embraced watching movies like Deerskin. All I knew when I saw that at TIFF was it was Quentin Dupieux. And I said, okay. And I didn't know anything about it other than that, but I made room in my schedule to watch that movie.
Yeah. So,
and but there's lots of movies that Peter will say, I'm not going to tell you anything about this movie, but you need to see it. It's screening at TIFF. And I go, okay.
Yeah.
And that's it. So.
Well, it is an interesting discussion, and one that we could probably have more of. MZ once again getting the fart notification that moving his screen. But we're going to wrap things down here, so I guess we'll go around the room in just a moment. But I want to first say a big thank you to Professor J for joining us once again, and also for bringing this film to us, because otherwise this we probably wouldn't have picked this one. I'm glad that we did. So glad you could join us once again, Professor, and I'm sure that we'll have you on again sometime soon.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having me, crashing a little bit.
And Dane appreciated you being on as well. He said thanks for the big ups, Professor J. He said, but he's the man, so he thinks you're the man. You're the man now, dog.
Can I ask one question about Dane? Because I don't know much about Dane. Is he from Australia?
Yeah, he's from and lives there. Yeah.
I think at some point you should have an epic invite where you should invite him to be on to discuss the movie Wake and Fright.
Wake and Fright?
Do you know that movie?
I've never seen it.
Oh, I think having Dane come on to discuss Wake and Fright would be, and especially if no one here has seen that movie. It's from the 70s.
But then if that were to happen, will you come back on with Dane?
Totally. Oh, totally.
And you're talking about the 1971 Wake and Fright, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know the movie. I haven't seen it, but I know it. Okay.
Yes. Or have a whole special Patreon of just Australian movies.
That would be pretty
Because
interesting.
there's a lot to talk about there, and again, having an Australian insight into some of that stuff would be very fascinating. So
you actually have a very triumvirate of a.
Yeah, we have a few. We have at least a few vocal listeners from Australia, but I think we have more looking at the stats.
Yeah.
So we have some Australian brothers and sisters.
Bring them all on.
Bring them all.
In.
Yeah, we get the full Brady Bunch squares going.
Yeah. There's 9 of them, right? There's 9 squares, so come on.
Dane says it's a lost and found classic. Talking about
oh man, I would just love to hear, because I know what I think of it. I know what other people, but I would love to hear an Australian's take on that movie. Because it's one of my favorites of maybe of all time. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, jot that one down.
That's
and,
high praise.
Yeah. We'll think about that some more. But we got to end the show here. We're getting close, and also my iPad's about to die, so I'm going to lose you guys. Won't be very
Plug
fun.
it in.
Won't be a very fun show with just me. So let's go around the room, starting with MZ.
Arrivederci, douchebags.
All right, Aries.
Goodbye.
Raven Shadow.
Live fast, love hard, die with your mask on.
No dying with the mask on. Live with the mask on.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor. It's like dying putting your boots on, your bootstraps.
Oh, there's living. You mask on living.
How about you, Jay? You have any words of advice or words to live by?
No.
Okay. Once again, to put you on the spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't either. I don't have a catchphrase like these guys. Aries is my favorite, though. Goodbye. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We appreciate Professor J coming out and hanging out some more with us. And we appreciate you guys tuning in to the live show. People sending in the voice messages, Josh and Dane. We appreciate you guys. And then everyone who's going to listen to this on the podcast feed. Thank you so much. And Oh, also, just real quick, it's not confirmed yet, but we may have a guest next week. So, and it's a returning guest if everything works out. He's penciled in, but I haven't got confirmation yet. So we'll find out. Let you guys know. See you next week.